Hello, hello, and welcome. This is going to be a quick reading today for Aries. I'm going to be looking at your current situation, what's coming in to assist, and then some more energies around that. So, the current situation is the Ace of Swords, right? So, sudden clarity on a situation. It's giving me the idea of kind of finding the source of a script, right? We have all of these scripts that run over and over and over again. And sometimes it's like we can't resolve it until we find the source, right? So, this is like the wool dropping from the eyes. It's gaining that Ace of Swords. And what's coming in to assist is the Five of Cups, which is an interesting energy, right, in terms of assistance. But what I have on the bottom of the deck, which is telling me how Spirit is actively helping, I have the Five of Swords, right? So Five of Swords, Five of Cups, and it feels like this Ace of Swords, whatever this revelation is that's kind of allowed you to identify the source of a particular script or loop, it's like that's kind of being dropped in by Spirit to create like a hard ending to a particular story, right? It's like this energy is all kind of telling me the end on whatever this loop is. It's like the credits are now going to roll. It's like that story is like actively being disrupted, I guess, by Spirit in whatever way, because the Five of Swords is very much so the energy of establishing a clear and firm boundary, right? Like it's Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings saying, "You shall not pass." It's very much so that energy, and if you do become aware of something, right, all of a sudden, if it has to do with a particular social dynamic, right, because that's what I'm seeing with the Five of Cups, that talks to me about a social dynamic that's changing. So going back to the Gandalf situation and the boundaries, right? It's like once you become aware of something that you were no longer aware of, it's like fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, you can't fool me twice, right? It's that old expression. And behind the Five of Swords, which is that boundary, I have the Six of Wands and the Justice card, right? So Six of Wands is like triumph, unexpected victory, return of the king kind of energy. So that's very much so what I feel like Spirit is creating for you. It's kind of because it's giving me the vibe of the anger threshold, right? Where it's like sometimes you don't get motivated till you get angry, but that's the thing that really kind of catalyzes you to pull yourself out of the mud or whatever it may be. And so it's giving me that kind of energy where it's like suddenly getting the full scoop on a situation, establishing that firm boundary that can no longer be crossed because you see something for what it is, getting the eyes to see, so to speak, and that being the quote unquote final nail in the coffin for a particular program that you had running in regards to, again, the spilled Three of Cups. Three of Cups is like how we see ourselves in relationship to other people within the social ecosystem, right? So within your family, you might see yourself as, the child, the cousin, the aunt, the uncle, the parent, whatever that may be. And that all has to do with us in relationship to others. So also within a social dynamic, the role that we play, right? It's like, Sex in the City, every friend group is like, who's the Carrie, who's the Samantha, who's the this, right? That's very much so the Three of Cups social ecosystem kind of energy. And there was a loop that was not serving you or anybody or whatever it may be, but it's like it couldn't be broken until the source of it was identified. And once it's identified, this can no longer serve its purpose. And you start moving towards this Two of Cups, right, which is a much more sustainable, harmonious, regenerative kind of ecosystem, right? Like a self-sustaining kind of ecosystem. Because now that you know who you are, it's no longer a matter of like the old adage of like, well, I don't know what I want, but I do know what I don't want. It's like now you can actually know what you want because you have this better sense of, again, what happened. And it's giving me the idea, if you know the old adage of like the one healing technique where theoretically, say you have problems in your foot and you know that when you were a kid you fell off of the swing set and hurt your foot. The idea is that you can replay that image over and over and over again in your mind differently and imagine yourself landing with grace as if you've just hit the perfect 10, right? And the idea is that if you can change the memory, it changes something in the cell memory and releases that trauma, and all of a sudden you can heal and move forward, et cetera, et cetera. But what this is giving me is the idea of like, imagine if you didn't know you fell off the swing set when you were a kid, and then all of a sudden somebody tells you that story. And you're like, what? I never knew that that happened. But now that you know that that happened, you can undo it, right? It's that poetically, where it's like suddenly realizing something where it's like, oh, I see where it's like, this was the first trauma that happened when I was, in preschool. And it was so subtle and so not that really big of a deal on the grand scale that I missed it until, spirit, I think, is really the one that's reminding you of what it is that happened or something like that, and giving you the clarity and the context and all of that. And the advice in terms of how to really kind of expedite this process with ease and grace and move towards this Two of Cups is to embody the magician and to remember that you have this archetype activated, but also Ace of Swords, right? It's like, this is the magician's sword. It's sitting on his table. So it gives me the notion that you already had the Ace of Pentacles, Cups, and Wands, and now you have the sword, right? And the sword is like the script point, right? So it's almost like you had the idea, you at least were aware of the resources that were aligned. You even had like a decent sense of your true identity, but this script keeps playing out. It's like, what in the heck? And now you've identified that source point or whatever it is. And what it's saying is like, now you can write over it, right? So remember that you are the magician, do your scripting magic. And because the Five of Cups too, there's a bridge, right? This is the bridge between the old and the new. You can see it crossing here. And it always talks to me about the energy of graduation, because it's bittersweet transition, right? It's hard to walk away from this thing, whatever it may be, maybe because there was emotional investment, whatever it may be. um, the other aspect is like comfort sometimes, right? It's better the devil you know, right? But it's like, you can't, if it's like graduating college, you can't stay in college forever, right? But you do know that when you graduate, you're never going to see those people again, because you're going to scatter to the four corners of the earth and blah blah, and that's sad. So it is what it is. But you're moving towards your greater destiny, right? So it's kind of remembering that. But what you're writing, what you're scripting, is this bridge that moves towards that more fully integrated self, right? Because it's almost like, I guess if we're going to use the college analogy, it's like you were in your apprentice phase and now it's time to do your thing, right? But let's say you apprenticed for a cobbler, right? And you were apprenticing for this cobbler, learning how to make shoes, and they really needed to teach you the business and the wholesaling and different just like techniques. But now that you're on and doing your thing, are you going to make the same shoes as the cobbler you apprenticed under, or is it going to be time for you to make your shoes? You know what I'm saying? You might do something totally different. So maybe that cobbler would have never made blue shoes, and your thing is like, you're going to make blue shoes, right? Something like that, in terms of the script point, in terms of recognizing that this all had value, right? I think that that's what I'm trying to say, is like how the bridge has to like kind of incorporate what it was and make it make sense, because that's like what we need, is for it to make sense, right? So I think it's like, in order to go on and make, it's like, in order to break the rules, you needed to know what the rules were in the first place. I don't think that's the right analogy, but in terms of apprenticeship and moving on to mastery, it's like, I think a lot of us honestly are learning how to use our superpowers by back engineering all of the crazy cuckoo stuff that we've been subjected to. It's like, that's taught us how this process works, right? And we're learning from our successes, but we're also learning from our failures, so to speak, or obstacles or whatever. But it's like, all of it is part of the class. All of it has like a lesson or something in it that's ultimately valuable, that the magician can use, right? So that's what it's saying, is like, back engineer it, use it all. um it's all material that can be worked with and transmuted or whatever. So the card I pulled, oh, it says, I am love. I may not have always made the right choices, but I did my best. Okay. Literally everything I was just saying. I have so much love to give, and everyone around me can feel it. I'm given a clean slate every single day to be the best version of me that I can be. I am forgiven and I am loved. So the Ace of Swords is a clean slate, right? And the story that you're moving into is a clean slate as well. And also, I guess, just kind of remembering that in the overall scheme of things, is that it's like, I think that our understanding of karma and the way that it works is very like, I don't think we're accurate at all in terms of how this place works or how it rolls over. But it's almost like, think of it in terms of like your phone plan. Like, we assume that our data just rolls over month after month and we can accumulate. And it turns out it doesn't, right? It doesn't matter how much data you have saved up. It all just goes to the wind or something like that. So that's almost what I feel like the analogy here is, kind of like surprise, like the data doesn't actually carry over the way that you thought it did. It's like once you identify and neutralize these scripts, it's good. Once you kind of make peace with it within yourself, it's good. um, all of these concepts of like, you know, what we have to do to make up for it or pay our dues or worthiness or all of that, it's like that's all just matrixy mind programming that's I think designed to confuse, which is not a surprise. So I'll leave it there. Aries, I love you. I hope that this was helpful and fun, and I look forward to seeing you at the next one. Bye, y'all.